This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Fellas, it's been a hell of a year. Personally, I feel like I've aged 12 years over the last 12 months. And if you're like me, you're feeling your age more than you used to, especially in the bedroom. It's time to snap out of it. Spring is here, and it's time to get sprung with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men achieve harder, stronger erections to combat all forms of ED. It's erectile dysfunction. Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. Don't like swallowing pills? No problems here. Blue Chew's sildenafil and tadalafil tablets are chewable. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, and they prepare and ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy. If you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code NODUNKS at checkout. You just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code NODUNKS to receive your first month free. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
Good morning, sweet world, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Monday, June 7th. I'm J.E. Skeets, back in the classic factory with the homie, Tass Mellis.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, Tassy? We got my top shot hot boy, fellow freak, Trey Kirby.
Hey-o!
Hey! Yo! The international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Friends.
And last but not least, making the magic happen is JD.
Hello.
There he is, and here we are. Shout out to the stream team for joining us live right now on YouTube. Smash that like button. Leave your comments below the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And keep sending in your questions and comments for the next Beach Steppin' podcast. Email them in nodunks@theathletic.com, or you can send them in by way of Twitter at NoDunksInc. Okay. Action-packed Monday episode here of No Dunks. So much to talk about. So many games. We got another series to preview and predict. We had a bunch of coaching moves happening over the weekend. A few more opening slots are now available. So we'll get into all of it, but we'll start with Game 7, baby. Clippers beat the Mavs 126-111 to win their series. Take down Luka and the Mavs. They move on. They'll take on the Jazz, and we'll get to that in a second. But Tass, big takeaways from this Game 7.
Well, the Clippers are a basketball team. They overcame adversity. It's something Paul George said over and over. He said, this is a different team than last season. This is a different team than last season. We're all waiting for it to be proven to us, right? We never really believed it. They're down 2-0. They won 4 of 5 games. And Paul George says they're a different team. They are a team. I mean, the contributions they got from everybody on this squad. They moved Reggie Jackson into the starting lineup. Reggie Jackson is a baller. He's never looked better, averaging 15 points a game, 39% from 3. They got the little spark plug, Terrence Mann, coming off the bench, the first guy off the bench, even though they have veterans. I thought Ty Lue's how long he waited to make these changes was too long, but I was proven wrong. Terrence Mann is coming off the bench to be that spark plug, even though they had Beverly in that rotation. Nick Batum was put into the starting lineup to be that defensive presence. He probably goes back to the bench for this next series. They got Marcus Morris chipped in, even Luke Kennard.
The nerd dog.
Yeah. We just thought that this team was so discombobulated, so separated. Like, they weren't a real team last year. But all those guys I just mentioned were the absolute key to them winning this game in the third quarter, going on that run at home, a 21-2 run late in the third. You needed all those guys to overcome Luka Doncic's 46 frickin' points in this game. He was great, but all those guys I mentioned are definitely in the hierarchy behind Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Kawhi, unless they win this series, I don't think we really respect what he's done throughout the 7 games, because we've all been talking about Luka. But when you step back and look at the numbers now, 32 points a game, 61% from the floor. He's hitting 6 of every 10 shots. This is the robot machine that they signed from the Toronto Raptors. 45% from 3 in Game 7. You have to kind of go through the whole box score to appreciate what Kawhi Leonard did. 28 points, 10 boards, 9 assists, 4 steals. He only took 15 shots to get those 28 points, but he hit 10 of them because he is a robot. And then Paul George is clearly the number 2. They know who they are. He averaged 23 points, 9 boards, and 6 assists in this series. They've got a squad, and they clearly should feel like they have as good a chance as anyone in the final 8 to make the NBA Finals and to win that thing. Because as David Aldridge pointed out, the 4 teams in the Western Conference have never won a championship. The 4 teams left, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Clippers, and the Jazz. And then the 4 teams in the East, well, they basically haven't won it since the 80s. You know, the Sixers won it in the 80s, the Hawks won it in the 50s, the Bucks won it in the 70s, and the Brooklyn Nets franchise has never won it. So this is wide open, baby. The Clippers got to feel great going into round 2.
Yeah, it felt like they sort of played a near perfect Game 7, Lily. Like, when you look at it, they were perfect at the line. I know you like that. 24-24, shot 46% on threes, and they were a great 3-point shooting team during the regular season. 50% from the floor overall. Only 8 turnovers too, and like Tass took us through, everybody contributed. I'm like hard pressed to find somebody that sort of didn't really step up and help the Clippers win that Game 7, and they've got to feel pretty good. Escaping, coming back, whatever you want to call it, against Dallas to move on here against the Jazz.
Yogi Ferrell did nothing yesterday's game. Yogi Ferrell, 37 seconds, a big O for everybody else, though. I'm 100% with you.
What about Cousins? Cousins did nothing.
Jesus, you guys are ruthless.
But let's
Step
just
it up,
go back.
Amir Coffee.
Let's go back to Friday night Game 6 when Kawhi Leonard was incredible in that game as well. I think that was obviously the chance the Mavericks had. I thought if it went 7, I thought it's just not going to be a hobo sweep. I think the Clippers had enough. But in that third quarter, the Mavs had that 5-point lead and it was like, wow, maybe they can do this. But that's when the Mavericks basically stopped scoring and the Clippers just went on a roll. Reggie Jackson was great. Marcus Morris was great. And they put the game out of reach. And, last week I did my top 5 performances in a loss in a playoffs. I think I'm going to have to do it again this week just for Luka Doncic because, when he puts up numbers like that and the team, loses, it must be so frustrating. And I think when you look at this series, they were down. They led 2-0 on the road. They were up 3-2 and they don't give anything to show for it. He's got to be incredibly frustrated with his teammates because he got bits and pieces performance from a lot of guys. But the biggest one and the biggest question going forward for the Mavericks is Porzingis. He statistically had an okay game yesterday, but this series he was dreadful. He didn't really do enough. He couldn't score well enough. He couldn't rebound. He wasn't a presence for them. And that, if you're Mark Cuban and the Mavericks, is like, okay, Porzingis is not really the guy. We can't rely on him. We can't trust him. He's either injured or he just doesn't perform. He didn't step up really at any point in this series to show that he could be a reliable option. Doncic was just incredible, but in the end, he just ran out of options. He was doing so much. And the Clippers, Ty Lue certainly leaned into his starters a lot more in this series, or his 5 players that he wanted. He would sort of really tighten that bench up. I know Kennard and Terrence Mann got minutes yesterday, but that was basically it. He had basically went 7 deep, and that's going to be a question for him going forward, like how much of a wear and tear is it going to take on your players? But they won the series, and that's what you have to do. You just advance and then figure it all out as you go on. But Kawhi Leonard really did step up and answer some questions because after those first 2 games, it was like maybe this Clippers team is going to be a disaster again and get swept out of the playoffs. But instead, they responded, and it starts with their legit superstar Kawhi Leonard, who was brilliant. And then Paul George got it together as well. We're not really talking about Paul George as much this series because he was pretty good, even though he was kind of quiet-ish. But it wasn't. That's the way Paul George wants to be, not that sort of disaster, pandemic P that he'd been labeled with, certainly down to the bubble and after the first 2 games of this series. So well done to the Clippers. Well done to Ty Lue. They stayed in it and they advance.
Yeah, they're only the 5th team in NBA history to lose the first 2 games at home and come back to win a playoff series. Like, that does not happen all that often. Ty Lue, it's his 4th Game 7 victory as a coach, too. This guy's money in the clutch, coaching him up. But, I want to get into the Porzingis. I don't know, Lee, if you've had a chance to fire up the trade machine and try and move KP. But before we get to that, anything from the actual game of the Clippers moving on in this series, Trae?
Well, I just wish Lee or JD was wearing a top hat right now, because you really got to tip your cap to the Clippers coming back from down 0-2 and down 3-2. That's impressive, especially considering the way things went for the Clippers last year, blowing a 3-1 lead. It was very funny to see the different reactions on Twitter, after they were down 0-2, like, oh, this Clippers team will never learn. This team is a joke of a franchise. They won their Game 7 yesterday. And very quickly it turned to maybe overcoming this adversity is what it takes for the Clippers to become one of the greatest teams in the NBA. Maybe they're the favorites in the Western Conference. I don't know. Kawhi was awesome in Games 6 and 7. And like you're saying, Lee, we're not talking much about Paul George, but that's just because Kawhi is overshadowing him a little, because Paul George, I thought, was great in Games 6 and 7 at the beginning of the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Keeping the Clippers attached, keeping the scoreboard ticking over. And then when Kawhi comes back, he obviously is the number 1 there, and he's been putting the team on his back, looking like 1998 Michael Jordan all over again, just throwing guys off him in the lane for his little shots. The twosome of those guys, plus the energy that Terrence Mann brought off the bench, the small lineup that Ty Lue went to, he made a lot of right calls in this one, including being right about road court advantage until the very last second when the Clippers outshot the Mavericks 20-10 from 3-point line. Great mind games by Ty Lue, convincing the Clippers that they were going to be able to shoot well in the Staples Center, not in Game 7. Everything changed.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the Mavericks here, because I don't know how many people realize that they haven't won a playoff series since they won the title back in 2011, which is just, it's a weird thing to wrap your head around, because they've obviously had like pretty good teams still, and they're in the playoffs. They just keep coming up short in the first round, and, haven't been drastic changes, because Rick Carlisle, of course, is still the coach, and Cuban's saying, yeah, we're not moving off of him. He's going to be a lifer here as long as he wants, in the sort of in the reign of Popovich there. But if you're the Mavs and you are Cuban and the front office, Tass, how realistically are you looking at trying to trade Kristaps Porzingis? Are you calling everyone you can to see if you can get something else in return? Or are you like, okay, this guy can get better. He can be the second option. You still believe in him. You gave up a decent amount to get him. Like, what do you do? Or do you try and pick up those phones on your workup? You all right, Lee? Jesus,
no, I'm not. I don't know what's going on.
Wedgie shirt on, the body wedgie in his throat right now.
I just keep seeing you mute and unmute, but every time you actually are unmuted, you're coughing. Yeah, right. All right. Anyway, KP, Tass, what do you do with him?
Well, you can pray to the basketball gods that there's somebody who would be willing to take him. The fact is, yeah, they went away from him as a number 2 option this series. Rick Carlisle thought that was the best way to try and win. Luka and everybody else, Luka and basically Tim Hardaway as the number 2 guy. That has become the Tim Hardaway trade now, getting Kristaps Porzingis and Tim Hardaway from New York. It's not the Kristaps Porzingis trade anymore. What do? You go in the offseason, and because he's so untradeable, you basically try and talk to him and say, you are our number 2 guy. Go through basically a physical workout schedule that tries to get him as healthy as possible, because that's the other big question. Is he just fit enough? Are his knees fit enough? But I'm concerned with Kristaps Porzingis even wanting to be there, because after he made up his mind that he didn't want to be a New York Knick anymore, he was done. And I'm kind of in that boat right now, where if there's even part of him that doesn't want to be there, then they got to try and move off of him, because he's not going to feel like he's the number 2 guy, and he's not going to work as hard as he possibly should off the court, because he has to do that physically to be a number 2 guy. But 30 plus each year for the next 3 years, that's a lot of bucks. No contract is untradeable. 0. We just saw John Wall traded for Russell Westbrook, and everyone claiming that John Wall contract was untradeable. But I don't know. Right now, as we talk about it, it feels pretty freaking untradeable. But I guess there's something out there. I just don't know if he's going to try and buy into being that number 2 guy. Right. And there's a chance it could work.
Yeah, you want a silver lining. The silver lining is that this is the first time in Porzingis' career that he's ending a season healthy. He has gone out with a season-ending injury in every single one of his 6 seasons, except for the season that he missed with injury. So, I mean, if you're the Mavericks, yeah, maybe you can find a trade in the offseason, but if not, maybe Porzingis actually gets an offseason to get in the weight room and squat so he can score over a guy that's a foot shorter than him. That would be impressive. Like if he just gets a nice turnaround jumper that you can punish small lineups, that would be humongous for the Dallas Mavericks. And then he comes back next season, has a good couple of months, and the trade value is a little bit up at the trade deadline. I would say the other thing that the Mavericks need to go to the next level is Doncic has got to be in better shape. To be quite honest, you see all of these stats. Look at his first quarter scoring, his second quarter scoring, his third quarter scoring, his fourth quarter scoring. Part of that's defense, no doubt about it. Part of it is him wearing down from carrying the offense the whole time. But look at what Jokic did. This is the exact same conversation we had with Jokic. Is he in good shape? Is he in the best shape he could be? He was not until this season. Now he's an MVP. Mm-hmm. He's done it from November until June at this point. Doncic has got to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You would think that, by all accounts, they're going to try and bring back Tim Hardaway Jr. Lee. And like Tess said, why wouldn't you? He was the best player in that trade with the Knicks. He's been better than Porzingis, especially when you're, of course, looking at the dollar value that he's given you. But he's going to, warrant a pretty good pay increase, and rightfully so. Josh Richardson did not work out. Mm-hmm. That one was, I was high on that. I was loving that deal. It made so much sense. A defensive-minded guy put by Luka can still hit the three. He was horrible. I mean, he wasn't even playing at this point in this series. He was DNP. So I don't know if he's still there. And I think he's got an option for that he'll likely pick up. It's not huge because he's on a decent deal, but he's got to be better. But I mean, you're trying to trade KP, and I think there would be teams that could talk themselves into Porzingis for sure. He's only 26. He's not even 26. He's turning 26 this summer. So he's still fairly young. Yeah,
maybe they want Lauri Markkanen, the next Kristaps Porzingis.
Well, what about the Pacers? Could there be something, and you're really switching it up with what you're doing for a big, but a Miles Turner type of deal? Could he come to Dallas? Would that work better, having a defensive-minded guy instead of what KP was giving them? Is there something around, Turner and a Lamb and maybe some picks for a KP? There's also people saying, well, what about the Blazers? We talk about them. They got to blow it up and trade off somebody. Is there a way you get Porzingis to the Blazers, Lee? I mean, it's got to be like a sign and trade with Norman Powell. I mean, is McCollum involved? Like, it's all these things. And I don't really love it from the Maverick side of things. But anyway, have you fired up the trade machine? Because you've talked a lot about KP and you're not a fan of this.
No, I've really gone off him because I just feel in a situation in a series like this, it was an opportunity for him to at least sort of put his stamp on the game. He gets into that high post, and as Trae's mentioned there, guys can't block that shot. So shoot it. But Boban outplayed him in the last couple of games in this series, and Boban at least made himself a presence there, and that's really a bad indictment on Kristaps Porzingis because, okay, rebound the ball. He averaged 5 rebounds a game for this series. Put yourself somewhere in a position where you are actually impacting the game. If your shot's not there, fine. That doesn't always drop, but just be there. Contest shots. They don't really have a big presence at all, the Clippers. Go in there and make sure you're getting putbacks. Make sure you're setting screens. Make sure you're just doing something to impact the game. And I just didn't think he was anywhere near aggressive enough. And that's the concern. I've seen Mark Cuban on Shark Tank. When he gets angry, he's out of a deal straight away. I bet you right now, if he could, he would say, Porzingis, I'm out. You're out of here. And he would just take his chances. Look, the Mavericks are incredibly lucky because Luka Doncic has 1 year left on his rookie deal. Now, they can sign him to that or the rookie max extension, which, of course, they're going to without even thinking about it. But that doesn't kick in until the following season. So they do get lucky in that they can sign Tim Hardaway, I think, next season to a pretty juicy contract, and it won't cost them too much. And the guy you mentioned as well, Josh Richardson, it's $11.5 million player option.
Yeah.
I think he's picking that up.
He's picking that up.
Yeah, I don't think there's a huge market for him. He hasn't been all that consistent there. So the Mavericks get lucky in that sense that they can probably keep him. But yeah, Porzingis, 3 years and $100 million. True, there's no untradeable contract, but I don't think any teams right now are going to give up a ton to get him. They will take a flyer on him if the Mavericks are prepared to sell low on him. But I don't think any team's going to give up a ton for him because he just hasn't shown that he's really able to take that next step up. I mean, he had a bad series, and there's really no excuse. Last year in those 3 games before he got injured, he was actually playing okay down in the bubble. This year, he got a full series, really did get the opportunity to show what he could do. In those losses, he was bad. In the wins, not much better. And that really just shows that he it's not like at any point it's like, well, he had that 35-point game. That's what they need to see from more of him. He was just ordinary. the whole series. And I think that's bad for him and bad for the Mavericks. And yes, the Mavericks will be looking to deal him. I think, understanding they're probably getting back pennies on the dollar for him in terms of what you expect from a guy like that and what we saw in New York. But at this point, you can't go forward with him and Doncic. It's just not going to work.
Wow, this guy's giving up on it.
Well, I'm kind of with you, especially with the way that we've seen things go down with the Trailblazers, where they just kept rolling out the same team year after year after year. They had the great run to the Western Conference Finals, but it's like you're rolling a team out there that is going to be bad at defense. You can't do that in the Western Conference, so why would you waste the majority of Doncic's prime when you could hopefully make a move here? You don't want to be in the Blazers situation where you're like, how do we improve this team so that our star actually wants to stick around? Because that's where the Blazers are at right now. And if you keep your superstar anchored to a not quite good enough second star, it's easy for Dallas to end up there as well.
Well, let's pivot here to the series that we now have. The final one that's locked in, Tass. It's the Jazz and the Clippers. They get started very soon, right? Is it Tuesday night? It's just one game off for the Clippers as they go right into the series in Utah. Which could be difficult. Maybe that'll have an impact on game one. We'll see this tight turnaround and playing in an altitude there. But let's get to the keys to the series. 1-4 matchup. It's chalk out west, just like everybody expected. No, I'm just kidding. What's your key to the series, Task? Get us started. Jazz Clips.
Yeah, quite the series. Clippers, Jazz. I'm really looking forward to Rudy Gobert's impact on the series on both ends because Kawhi, he's struggled against the Utah Jazz since he's become a Los Angeles Clipper. The last 2 seasons, his worst numbers are against the Utah Jazz. And Rudy Gobert, obviously a big part of that. John Schumann with great stats on NBA.com, revealing how Kawhi is struggling everywhere where he likes to shoot against the Jazz these last 2 seasons. So Rudy has got to be very, very big. Although the Clippers coming off 7 games and most recently last couple of games against Boban Marjanovic. So they understand that maybe they can't go into the rim. And so, like, if Rudy Gobert is going to be around there, they weren't really going at Boban. The Mavs were happy to play zone. So maybe these last few games have given them a little bit of a template to stay away from Rudy. And then Rudy on the other end, that's their advantage right there. Gobert's got to stay on the floor to me for his offensive gravity because that's how the Utah's 3-point shooters are going to get hot if Gobert's in there doing his dunking. But if he gets off the floor, he's probably going to be matched up with Ivica Zubac's probably back in the starting line. If he's back or if he goes off the floor, I think the Clippers they just played against Luka Doncic and a bunch of 3-point shooters. I think they'll be ready to get out there and guard those guys. But if Rudy pulls them away a little bit, that'll be important. I think Serge Ibaka could play a factor in this series if he is healthy to bring Rudy away from the hoop a little bit, neutralize him. And if Serge isn't healthy, I do think we're going to see some DeMarcus Cousins out there in backup minutes to bang, whether it's Rudy Gobert or Derek Favors. So Kawhi, clearly the best player in that first round series. He overcame Luka in a way, contributing like everywhere on the floor. And now I think, you can debate that whether he was the best player against Luka, but now he is the best player on the floor over Donovan Mitchell. So it's going to have to be guys from everywhere for the Jazz. And it starts, I think, with Rudy as their sort of their second best guy to make things go a little bit, to try and overcome that deficiency they have, that deficit they have with the best player on the floor, because Kawhi is a robot, but will he still continue to be a robot against Rudy?
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what Lou does here, Trey, because some people are like, this is a nice little trial run against the Mavs here with now your next series against Gobert and how they did it. And like, look, Kawhi operates in the mid-range, and they obviously like to let it fly from 3. They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams we've seen in a long time. So yeah, maybe their spots will be there, and they got some experience there, and they leaned into going small. Will they do that from game one, right from the jump? Will the Clippers just continue to play, quote unquote small here and try and play Gobert off the floor? Will that work?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if Gobert is able to stick on the court. Obviously, Gobert is a lot better than Boban is as a player on both ends of the court, but Boban had an impact, I thought, for the Mavericks, just being the hugest guy out there where, he can get the ball and basically the other guys can't reach it at that point. So, yeah, I mean, if Gobert is able to stay on the floor, I think it's reasonable to expect like an 18-15 kind of season series from Gobert if he's just rolling to the rim, hitting the glass, putting back the putbacks. And if that's the case, then the Clippers are going to be in trouble because it would be very easy for the Clippers to turn into a jump shooting team against the Jazz. And maybe that works out for the Clippers. They shot 41% from three during the regular season. The Jazz, obviously a great 3-point shooting team as well. But there were times I thought in the Mavericks series where having Porzingis out there, having Boban out there, it just kind of took a little aggression away from the Clippers. And if just having Gobert out there is going to have that sort of influence, that would be humongous for the Jazz.
Yeah, and Gobert's the backbone of the Jazz defense, but a lot of attention in this series, Lee, is going to go to Royce O'Neal, probably Joe Ingles at times, maybe on matchups with Paul George, like guys like that. Like, can these guys contain the stars on the Clippers and at least try and keep them in check? And then, yeah, I mean, it's a team defense. Don't get me wrong, and especially with Gobert and what he does and funneling guys to him, but Royce O'Neal especially has to have like the series of his life here, I think. Maybe you will start hearing the casual fan will start learning his name a little bit because he is a great defender. But my God, the way Kawhi's locked in right now, good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to stop Kawhi. The Clippers have the best player in the series, Kawhi Leonard. He showed that in that last series. But the Jazz do defend players and teams pretty well. They've done that all season. They're a deep team, and they get out and stop that three-pointer. So that is going to be tough. I don't have any concerns that Gobert is going to be played off the floor. I think he's just too dominant. And I think if you're the Jazz, you try to make him impactful on both ends and make the Clippers work because they don't really have a big who can stop him. I mean, Zubats is not going to be able to do it, I don't think. So I think the Jazz have a big advantage there in the middle. And Gobert, we know, like if they pull him out, that's okay because it's not like they've got terrible perimeter defenders, that. And the Jazz, the Clippers against the Mavericks, they could go inside and penetrate and score because there wasn't that great interior defense. That's not going to be the case here for the Jazz. And they're at home, they're fresh, they're rested. The only real concern is Mike Conley's hamstring. He left the last game of the Grizzlies series with a tweak. They said it was the same hamstring, but the fact that this series went 7 gave him a couple of extra days there to rest. So I think that's interesting. I don't think they've sort of said whether or not he is playing in game 1, but if you're the Jazz and you're at full strength, I think their defense is going to be very, very tough for the Clippers. Of course, the Clippers do have good offensive talent, so it's going to be a bit of an arm wrestle in that sense like that. But I think this is really shaping up to be a fascinating series because the Clippers have come off a tough series where Ty Lue really did shorten that rotation. They got through. Now, will that be a factor? Does that come into play a bit? Does Ty Lue have to dig into his bench a little bit here more and trust some of those guys? Patrick Beverley's basically been played out of the rotation, and they're going to need someone like him to at least come in and give them some decent minutes in this series because one of the biggest strengths the Jazz has, they play 9 players, and they pretty much everyone out there can do the same job. I mean, obviously Gobert and Favors don't shoot the threes, and Jordan Clarkson's not a great defender, but he on the event just so much of that interchanging roles there for the Jazz that worked, I think, to their advantage in this series.
So you need the Clippers bench to show up again here in a couple of these games for you to like.
Yeah, I mean, like Luke Kennard was great yesterday, and Terrence Mann was great for them, but that was all Ty Lue really trusted from his bench. Rondo kind of got played out of this series a little bit, and he was brought in to give that bench unit some boost. And so I expect he's going to get some more minutes, certainly early in this series, simply because, as I said before, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard played 40 minutes in every game in that last series except for the blowout, which was game 4 when they won by 35 or something.
That's what your superstars should do, though. I mean,
no, that's 100%.
Somebody should send that to Budenholzer and say that's what you're actually supposed to do.
Oh, my God. Yeah, let's
we'll get to
save that one. But no, that's right. In the playoffs, your starters and your stars should play heavy minutes. No question about it. But there's also, after a tough 7-game series, now you're going up against the best team from the regular season. At some point, you think that has to be a factor in the series, if it goes long. But I guess if it goes long, that's good for the Clippers as well. But who is that one that Ty Lue can trust to come out and play some steady minutes? Luke Kennard I don't think he saw many minutes in the first 2 or 3 games of this series, but in the end, he came out and played well in game 7. So that's great for him.
All right, Trey, what's your key to this series?
My key is Bojan Bogdanovic. The biggest difference between the Jazz this season in the playoffs and the Jazz last year in the playoffs, Bojan, 17 points per game, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, good percentages, good secondary scorer, a solid shooter, sturdy defender, but I feel like a lot of the rep for him as a defender comes from his tenure in Indiana guarding LeBron James and being, sizable enough, quick enough on his feet, and strong enough to take some bumps down in the post. They're playing a different LA team, though, far more perimeter-oriented. His matchups, I think, Bojan will probably be Nick Batum for a lot of it, probably Morris, and if that's the case, if that's who Bogdanovic is matched up with, he's got to win that one. Royce O'Neal, Mike Conley are probably going to get the Kawhi and PG tasks, but they're going to have problems with the size. I think Bojan will get a turn on Kawhi, and that could be a big ask, especially since you want him to give it to you defensively as well. Bogdanovic, a swing factor to me. When he has a favorable matchup, he's got to win it. Like, that's got to be locked down. The Jazz are winning this with the 3-4 here, and when he's playing up against Kawhi or maybe Paul George, he's got to do a little bit to cancel those guys out because the Clippers are going to have an advantage on the wing. There's no doubt about it with Kawhi and Paul George. So Bogdanovic, him being healthy this year, Joe Ingles as well, they just got to step up. They got to hit their three-pointers to kind of cancel out what the Clippers are going to do. And they just got to make it tough. They got to funnel those guys into Gobert. They got to contest the mid-range jumpers. Bojan's got to bring it for this entire series. We heard last year things would be different if Bojan Bogdanovic was healthy. He's healthy this year. Let's see it.
Yeah, after the Clippers won Game 7, moved on task, I threw the tweet out there, Clippers Jazz, like, who you guys got? And man, the responses to this, it felt like it was 50-50. Jazz people going, yep, Jazz in 5, 6, or 7. And then Clippers like, nah, Clippers have figured out. They're going small. They're going to they got Kawhi playing at this level, Terminator Kawhi, whatever you want to call him. Clippers going to move on in 5, 6, or 7. And I think this is what's going on here is like you took us through all these teams that haven't won a title. It does feel like any of these squads, and especially these matchups in the West, can move on. So let's get to our predictions. Are you going Jazz or Clippers, and in how many games in this one?
Well, yeah, just looking at it, I think people are looking at it and thinking, well, it's sort of the classic team that does it by committee versus the team with the superstar and now Kawhi Leonard. But I think we are all sort of underestimating Donovan Mitchell's impact in the 4 games that he came back. He looked really, really good against the Memphis Grizzlies. Everybody wants to compare this team to the Hawks of the 14-15, that 60-win team, Atlanta Hawks team, but Donovan Mitchell takes them up a notch. At the same time, the Clippers definitely have the better superstar, so the Jazz will have to do it by committee. I definitely worry about Conley's hamstring, especially if he's the one tasked with guarding Kawhi Leonard. You look at the perimeter guys on the Jazz, it's just going to be difficult to come up. Yeah, after Royce O'Neal, those matching up with Kawhi and Paul George, it's going to be tough. So Rudy Gobert is going to have to play a monstrous series. I kind of like the fact that the Clippers played 7 games, and yes, they played a lot of minutes, but they had to go through some adversity. Jazz haven't necessarily had to do that other than off the court with training debacles with Donovan Mitchell. The Clippers had to go small. They had to go big. They understand what they are a little bit more. So that kind of just leans me towards the Clip, and I think the superstars are going to play a big factor. I think Kawhi's going to play just a huge factor in this series, and that they have more at the top. I was, riding high with the Jazz after watching them beat the Grizzlies. But then, yeah, the Clippers are playing their best ball since Kawhi's got there. Kawhi making it known that he's one of the top few players in the league right now. So I'm taking the Clippers in 6, although, yeah, I'd say, before Game 6 and Game 7 of that Clippers Jazz series or Clippers Mavericks series, was not feeling the Clippers, but I'm feeling right. I'm feeling better picking them right now, but can't wait to watch.
Trae, let's go to you next. Who you got in this?
I'm going to go with the Jazz in this one. Give me the Jazz in 7. I think that they can shoot with the Clippers. They're both great 3-point shooting teams, so that likely cancels each other out over the course of the season. But the Jazz have more inside. I think Donovan Mitchell does a better job of getting specifically to the rim than some of the Clippers superstars do. Obviously, Kawhi was incredible in Game 7, had a couple of sick dunks. The one down the lane, the one-hander was nice. The two-hander was nice. Take your pick if you want on the left side of the floor or the right side of the floor. But between Mitchell and Gobert, the Jazz can put a ton of pressure on the rim. Obviously, they're going to play defense. They've got a great interior defense as well. I'm going with the Jazz.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the Jazz playing much zone defense here like the Mavericks had to resort to there. Okay, you're going with the Jazz in 7. Lee, what about you?
I too am going with the Jazz, but I'm going in 6. I like the fact that they are rested. And Skeetsy, you talk about how going through a tough series is good, and I agree with you on that. But I just wonder if it just took a little bit too much of a toll, and I just don't trust that depth from the Clippers. So I think, again, if you have to have your stars playing, 44, 45 minutes a night, that, they can do it because, this is what Kawhi does. This is why he manages his load all season long, so he's ready to go in the playoffs. But against a team that's just so well coached, I think they've got that great bench depth themselves. Now, on that bench, Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles, two players who have been very good, didn't have a great series against the Grizzlies. They sort of struggled, but if they can get it going again together, I think that's just going to put a lot of pressure on the Clippers defense. So I think Rudy Gobert's in for a big series too, myself. I think at both ends of the floor, he can be impactful because he doesn't, Zubats is not scaring anybody. And then on the other end, he's just too long and too strong. If they run a lot of that pick and roll stuff, especially with Jingles, he can get to the paint and he can score easily on that. So I like the Jazz. They're rested. They're at home. They've had a lot of time to plan and prepare. Yes, Conley is certainly a concern. Whether or not he even goes in the first game, we'll find out. But I think the Jazz, after that bad start to the series against the Grizzlies, got things together. Mitchell's back, looking great. I think they've got too much. I've got the Jazz in 6.
This is tough. This is the classic. Ooh, Lee Ellis. Yeah, yikes. I'm torn, guys. I really don't know where to go. I am I just keep, my mind flashes forward to fourth quarter situations in close games because these teams are pretty even, I think. And it's we saw it with Kawhi. We're talking about what Kawhi's doing offensively, but there were times where he was put on Luka and all right, we need to stop here or get it out of his hands. Don't let him beat us. And he did it. He did it a couple times. Hey, Luka was amazing. He hit some crazy shots on Kawhi even still. But I just see that happening potentially in this series. If Mitchell has it going through a couple of quarters that, all right, Kawhi, go shut Donovan Mitchell down. And it's ooh, now who are the Jazz going to really go to and help him out? And that's where it gets me leaning towards the Clippers in this series. So, Tass, you went Clips in 7, right? I think I'm with you.
I went 6. I went 6.
Seriously, you went 6. That's what I meant. I'm going to go 6 as well. Yeah. I'll go Clippers in 6. So we're torn on this. We got 2 guys going Jazz, 2 guys going Clippers. It was just like my tweets coming back at me, Tass. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do see that Kawhi, at times when needed, he's going to be able to slow down Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, but see, I counter that with the way the Jazz move the ball around. And anyone on the perimeter there can knock down that 3. That's what gives me confidence that Mitchell doesn't have to be the guy who's like Luka. Where it's like Luka, what did he have? He scored or assisted on 77 points, I think it was yesterday. That's just not the case with the Jazz. It's you want to defend me? Fine, I'll just move it around and we'll get an open look. That's
but I'll push back on that because many times, even in this last series, we saw the Jazz in a close game. They're playing Jazz basketball, but it gets into fourth quarter and it's we need our superstar to get to the line, create something. And it's the ball movement starts to go away a little bit. It's just what happens. And you need your star players to make the big plays. So we saw that. And Donovan Mitchell did it time and time again in that series. He was awesome in fourth quarters a lot of the time. I just think it's going to be a little different with Kawhi on him. What's that?
A counterpoint to a counterpoint.
Exactly. Well, look, we're hoping for a great series, and we think it's going to go at least 6 or 7. And you tell us who you got winning, guys, in the stream team there and in the comments below. That one gets started on Tuesday night. We do have 2 games tonight. We'll get to those in a second. We'll get to the games yesterday and from the weekend in the Eastern Conference. But first, a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Lots of things can make your workouts hard. Everybody knows this. Extra resistance, double speed, 1 more mile. What about a half moon pose, Trey? Oh my God. Struggling with that in my yoga workouts. Half moon pose. I'm shaking like crazy, trying to get my hand up, trying to make the triangle. I'm trying, Adrian. Oof. But your socks, they should not make things harder. And they don't with Bombas. The performance socks are built to be nothing but comfortable and supportive. Bombas performance socks have taken all the amazing innovations that make Bombas the most comfortable socks you've ever worn, and they've added their special Hex Tech. God, that's easy to say, isn't it? Hex Tech performance technology.
What the hex are you trying to say over there?
My God. Hex Tech performance technology. They're saying tech twice in that statement. That's incredible. Socks are stitched with special moisture-wicking yarn and temperature-regulating vents that allow cool air flow in and preventing overheating. My feet definitely overheat. I suffer from sweaty feet syndrome. SFS. Yeah, so these are great. Yeah. It's a real thing. Look it up. They come with a pillow-like tab to save you from blisters, stay-up technology, a special arch hugging system, and an extra layer of cushiony comfort on the bottom for the perfect amount of support. We love these socks. We talk about it all the time. They're honestly amazing, so you'll get some. Go to bombas.com/nodunks today and get 20% off your first order. That's Bombas, BOMBAS, bombas.com/nodunks for 20% off. Bombas.com/nodunks. Am I saying Bombas right?
Yeah, I think so.
Every time I look at it and then I say it, I'm like, it's got to be Bombas. Yeah, Bombas. It's not bomb ass. No.
Bomb ass.
Yeah.
It's not JD at the beach.
No.
At the nude beach.
No, okay. Bombas.com/no-dunks. Get 20% off your order.
Are you feeling drained after working out, or playing basketball, or just doing regular household chores? I did yard work for the first time in literally decades this weekend, and I felt like it nearly destroyed me. Well, if this has happened to you, you might want to give this great new supplement, True Niagen, a try. That's right, True Niagen fuels the body's energy engines. It maintains cellular metabolism and even supports heart health. With 11 published human clinical studies and backed by Nobel Prize winners, True Niagen is a supplement that's clinically proven to boost NAD levels, an essential coenzyme required for cellular energy and repair. Taking True Niagen can help with muscle recovery after a workout. Add more vitality to your life today with True Niagen. Right now, new customers can save 10% off their first purchase by going to trueniagen.com/no-dunks. That's TRUNAIGEN.com/no-dunks to save 10% off your first purchase. trueniagen.com/no-dunks. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What interferes with your happiness? Because, watching Tom Thibodeau on the sidelines, it's pretty much any time the opposition team scores. Have you seen the look on his face? He's disgusted. But is there something preventing you from achieving your goals? BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. Connect in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line, it's not self-help, it's a professional counselling done securely online. You can send messages to your counsellor at any time. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counsellors if needed, and the service is available for clients worldwide. We know we have a huge audience, not just here in North America, but people around the world. So if this is something that you might be interested in, check it out, because licensed professional counsellors who are specialised in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, or trauma can help you. And I want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/no-dunks. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's betterhelp.com/no-dunks.
All right, back to the game recaps from the weekend. And we will go to game one, Eastern Conference semifinals between the Hawks and the Sixers. Trae Young scores 35 as the Hawks topped the Sixers 128-124. Got pretty close there in the end. In game one, Embiid did play, put up a great stat line, but too much Hawks there in game one. Lily, what's the big takeaway?
I wonder if Doc Rivers even watched the Knicks-Hawks series, because honestly, the Hawks just picked up where they left off. Trae Young ran right in the first half, 25.7 assists, and the Hawks are up by 20. And Trae was being guarded mainly by Danny Green in that first half, and there was no pressure on him at all. And on the other end, Trae Young didn't have any work to do defensively. But on the offensive end, he just walked past Danny Green time and time again. And whether it was a floater, whether it was hitting a three or passing to his teammates, he just did it unmolested so many times. And it seemed like a sort of blowout was on the cards there at halftime, because they were so impressive. Now, the start of the second half, Ben Simmons got a go on Trae Young, and they did start trapping him a little bit. But I mentioned this in the last series, and I really noticed this down at the Fortress more so than I had before. Trae is really good at keeping his dribble. The trap came, he kind of knew it was coming, and he stayed with the ball a lot. He didn't sort of lose possession. They put him under a lot more pressure there. But then Ben Simmons picked up a couple of fouls, and Doc went back to Danny Green. Matisse Thybulle came on late in the third. And finally, and Hubie Brown brought this up on the broadcast yesterday, Trae Young had a shot late in the shot clock. It was a deep three, and it missed badly. And Hubie said that's the first time he felt Trae had been rushed into a shot for the whole game. And I thought the same thing. I thought Matisse Thybulle just had way more energy. He's got those long arms. He's a very good defender. He moves his feet well. And even Tyrese Maxey can move quicker, can sort of stay there with Trae Young. But anyway, get to the fourth quarter. Hawks up 17 with just over 4 minutes to go. And it looked like, okay, this one is over. Then the Hawks went on a wild run. They got a turnover that turned into an easy 2-pointer. And then the Hawks, because they ran out of timeouts, had a 5-second violation. Got it down to within 3 points with 30 seconds to go. And you just sort of felt the Sixers might steal it because the Hawks did become a little bit rattled there. But then John Collins got a breakaway, knocked in a couple of free throws. Bogdan Bogdanovic just before that hit a huge three as well. Did the Trae Young celebration to the crowd, the celebration. And he got it right too. He had it over his lips, not over his sort of nose and forehead there.
They're learning.
But a super impressive performance all around, I think, by the Atlanta Hawks because DeAndre Hunter didn't play. Solomon Hill got the start in this game. He hit a couple of 3-pointers. He was
Solid.
okay. He hit
Solid
those.
man Hill.
Listen, shoot 3-pointers with the confidence of Solomon Hill because he jacked up 7, went 2 for 7, not bad. But I thought a couple other pointers. I thought Bogdanovic was very good. I thought John Collins was also quietly quite good in this game. Kevin Huerta continues to give them really good minutes off the bench. Hit some big shots for them as well. And I thought, look, Joel Embiid finished with 39 points, which is, big line. I thought Capella did a decent job on him. I didn't think it was one of those 39-point games where it's like Embiid was just bullying them underneath. I thought he had to work pretty hard to get his points. And for a guy who looked like he sort of tweaked that knee a little bit there for a time, but he was good. For the most part, Joel Embiid was good. But I thought Capella, who also had foul trouble, did a decent job, as decent as you can expect on there, just sort of not making it easy for Embiid. So overall, very impressed by the way the Hawks pulled this one out, but really surprised by that first half from Doc Rivers, why he just and then in the fourth quarter, he went back to Danny Green on Trae Young. I just don't think that's the matchup. I think it's got to be Thibault going forward. So well done to the Hawks. Great start to the series there and turned into a really good game.
Yeah. I got to dispute the Bogdan Bogdanovic with the good shush to the crowd. If you look at the Hawks Instagram account, he put it up over his mouth, but then he went to the side. It's like on his cheek. It was like drifted. It's a drifter. That's
That was a shout out to Santa Claus laying his finger aside of his nose.
I thought it was better anyway than Trae's, sort of above, I don't know what that is. But that big three, that was a huge three. That pretty much put him up 6 and basically that was the one. Yeah.
And then a massive alley-oop.
That was huge. That was a wicked dunk from Collins off the pass from Trae. Yeah. I don't know who's feeling better after this game one, Tass. Is it the Hawks because they were dominant there in the first quarter, first half? I mean, put up 70 points, but then nearly gave the game away, but they got the win, so they're happy. Or is it the Sixers who did not play well, of course, in the first half? They have moves to make, which is definitely start by not putting Danny Green on Trae Young. Embiid did play. He looked great. Are they sort of feeling good? Oh, okay, we lost, but we can get the best of the Hawks in this series once we switch things up and we got a healthy Embiid. I don't know. I can't decide really.
Yeah, I would take the Hawks for 2 reasons. I don't think Joel Embiid could look any better than that, and he was, limping around a little bit at times on the defensive end. He's struggling. I don't think he's going to get any healthier as the series goes on. And the second thing is the Sixers, for some reason, made that move when they are the favorite. And that move, I mean, they put Danny Green on Trae Young to start the game. It makes no sense. So I think the Hawks are kind of winning the mental game. They for some reason, the Sixers are acting like the underdog. They are the favorite. I have no idea why they would take the guy that has been labeled as a defensive player of the year, Ben Simmons, off of Trae Young to start the game. It makes no sense that you're making this adjustment before the season. You're the number 1 seed. Come in and act that way. And I think that shows the guys in the locker room that, maybe we don't have a game plan against Trae Young. It was a bad move, I think, to start. And it just exudes a little bit of weakness. And that obviously the Hawks got feeling great. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks as an underdog to the Brooklyn Nets, you make that move of putting PJ Tucker in the starting lineup. That makes sense. You're the underdog. We'll get to that in a sec. But to me, that Doc Rivers thing was it's inexplicable, and it obviously didn't work. And Danny just doesn't have the foot speed to hang with Trae Young. And you're just saying this identity that we've had all year to get this number 1 seed, we're going to go away from it when the series is tied 0-0. We've got home court. It's I don't know. It was a mistake, I think, by Doc to start the series like that. And not only does it put a lot of pressure on Danny Green to chase to Trae Young around, but it also puts a lot of pressure on Joel Embiid and those knees that are definitely not 100%. he gets by, Trae gets by Danny Green, and Joel Embiid is usually the guy in that action with the pick and roll coming from Clint Capella. So he's got to dance even more. But if Ben Simmons is covering like he started to do in the third quarter when they went to that coverage, I think that saves Joel Embiid's knees a little bit. So you could see why the Hawks were 13 of 23 in the first half on 3 balls, because Trae was dancing and finding guys. And that number against the Sixers defense that is supposed to be their forte, they went away from, and that hurt them big time. So I think the Hawks, they got to feel good. I mean, they can lose game 2 and still feel good going back to Atlanta 1-1.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable first half. I mean, it was like in the first quarter, it was like, I don't think you can play a better first quarter, if I'm being honest, from the Hawks, the way they were moving that ball around, the way Trae Young was just dissecting them. And yeah, they were helped by Danny Green trying to guard them. That's not going to work. But Ben Simmons, Trae did get the assignment early in the third quarter and picked up 2 fouls like instantaneously. I thought one of them was pretty like, what? Didn't Trae Young actually create that contact, but got away with it, did a little Heisman on him, and he actually got the whistle on Ben Simmons. And maybe that's the issue that Doc's like, well, I mean, we put Ben Simmons on him. Yeah, he's our lockdown guy, but he could get in foul trouble in a hurry like he even did there in the second half. But by all accounts, like, reading into it in the post game, Simmons is like, I'm going to be guarding him. Like, and he should. Yep. He should want him. He should take him.
It should be a one-on-one matchup. They shouldn't be trapping Trae Young, because then the Hawks are too good at passing the ball and finding open shooters, and that's how you get Bogdanovic hitting a huge 3 and laying his finger aside of his nose. It's got to be on Simmons. He's got to take the Trae Young matchup personally, and he's got to dominate that matchup, because I think the stream team is right. You're right, Skeets, that Doc's a little worried about Ben Simmons picking up fouls against Trae Young. He's been great against that. Clearly, if Simmons is on Trae and Capella or Embiid's guarding Capella, they're going to go to that pick and roll quite a bit to try and get Embiid moving, to try and get him in foul trouble, to try and put the pressure on Ben Simmons. But Simmons is big enough, quick enough, and long enough that he can still bother Trae Young in a one-on-one matchup. The trap, though, is just not going to work, and Danny Green is not going to work. I guess he got a half to see if he would give any sort of resistance to Trae Young. Same with Seth Curry, but it's got to basically be Simmons, and then when Simmons is off the court, it's got to be Tybal. I'm with you, Lee. I thought he did the best job. That one possession where it just looked like he actually sped Trae Young up. Mm-hmm. It was like the first time Trae Young felt hurried at all in the playoffs. I don't know. I think the Sixers just were a little bit caught off guard here. They played a basically nothing series in the first round against the Wizards. The Hawks came out, had a great series against New York. They're rolling, came in, smashed the Sixers in the face. It rolled over into the second quarter. But if you look at the total score from quarters 2, 3, 4, the Sixers are on top there. You just throw out that first quarter, play a little harder, play some playoff intensity to start game 2. You can get a split here. But yeah, I'm with Tass as well. The Hawks are feeling good. They got their one on the road already.
Yeah, that trap, if you saw the ESPN stats and info in the second half, they threw multiple defenders 15 times at Trae Young in the second half. He only attempted 1 field goal in those 15 instances. Makes sense. He's got a bunch of bodies on him. But the Hawks went 7 for 11 overall from the field for 19 points. Because, yeah, he's a great passer, and the Hawks have a bunch of shooters. Someone's going to be open, and these guys are contributing. You're right, Lee. I mean, I think Herter's been phenomenal for them. Even defensively, he's like really getting into it on that end. And then, of course, Bogdanovic is key. So great win from the Hawks here. It's going to be, I think, a very, very fun series. But we'll see what goes on. And look, I thought the Sixers were going to come out with a bang, Trae, after we saw Triple H ringing the bell there with the sledgehammer.
Not me. Triple H is the most overrated superstar of our generation. John Schumann nailed it. Triple H's entrances are always better than his matches. Triple H loves to put other guys over. As one of the executives in the company, it looks good for a superstar like Triple H to lose. Why would you bring him out in game 1 to put the Hawks over? Major L from the Sixers.
Oh, Jesus. Thrust the process. Not a fan of it. Nice shirts, though, they had there. Apparently, you can't buy them, though, so don't get too excited. But, yeah, Embiid was a monster, and we should see Simmons or Thybulle, somebody else besides Danny Green on Trae Young. I can't wait to see what the Hawks do to try and figure that out. And if those other guys can help out and get them another victory. Like, the Hawks are it did roll over so smoothly, Lee, from the Knicks series. You're right. I mean, it was just like they were playing another game against the Knicks, it felt like a little bit there in that first half, especially because they're feeling good about themselves, this Hawks team. They got their star. Everybody's contributing, and they're playing with house money, as I said, heading into the series. Like, nobody's really picking them, just like a lot of people weren't picking them to beat the Knicks.
And the thing I like about Trae as well, if they do, let's say it is Ben Simmons on him, they'll get a high pick for him to try to get him into the paint and draw Embiid away from a Capella, and he'll be happy to throw that lob, or they'll just John Collins sort of basically in that high post area, bounce it to him, and then somehow try to move Embiid away from protecting either the paint or protecting Capella, and then John Collins can go in. And he's really picked it up after struggling in the early games of that Knicks series as well, hitting some corner threes. And you can just see his confidence there. He's not a center. He's not a big per se. Like, he can't really guard Embiid himself. I mean, that really does fall on Capella's shoulders. But he just also makes it a difficult matchup for them on the offensive end because he can spread the floor. And he's athletic enough, as we saw, to get inside there and make some buckets. So the Hawks have got some weapons here. And when those shots are falling from Bogdanovic and Kevin Huerta coming off the bench, it makes the Sixers have to scramble a little bit on defense. So this was, super well done job from Nate McMillan yet again. I thought he came in really prepared and ready. I think he probably was expecting more of a defensive focus on Trae Young that just didn't happen in that first half, which allowed Trae to get those shots off and build up that lead. So it was a fun game to watch, though. And the the Sixers fans, I think, went with the Trae is balding, but I think they were a little bit hesitant. They were like, we saw him just torch the Knicks. Like, let's not get on Trae's. Let's not get into his head because he's been so good. So it wasn't the most. I thought it'd be a bit more raucous there from Philadelphia, known to be a crowd that creates an intimidating environment. But they were a bit like, just careful, guys. Just don't make him go off. Ended up killing him anyway. So
yeah. Triple H set a real bad tone. You see him ding the actual bell.
Mm-hmm.
Bad ding.
I don't even know if I'd call it a ding. He like fluttered the sledgehammer towards.
I think he was
the
worried about destroying the bell.
He was worried about cracking it. Come on, this is the beginning of the second round. Hit that thing. If it breaks, cool.
The Liberty Bell's supposed to have a crack in it. Come on, Triple H.
I mean, he barely touched it, and then the Sixers came out and personified that bell ding right there. It was nothing. I was so weird. I mean, I was watching that live. I was so crazy to see Triple H come up with Joel and
you really think about what was happening. You're like, this is amazing. This league, it's nuts. Like, this all happened because Embiid's doing the suck it chop while he's on the ground, sort of, and then Triple H is tweeting about it. So then now he's suddenly there for a playoff game with the sledgehammer and custom shirt. Like, it is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I think it was Trenton Hassel's Carmelo on Twitter that says, it's pretty amazing how much the 76ers franchise has embraced sucking it. Like, this is game one of their second round playoff series. They've got the most fans in the stands they've had for the entire season. And Joel Embiid is wearing a Degeneration X shirt. That's pretty wild stuff.
It's wild when you really stop and think about it. And it was wild, I would say. I know someone slipped it in there. No DeAndre Hunter, and the Hawks still get this win is huge. I don't know what his status is moving forward. He's an important player to them, what he gives them on both sides of the basketball. So, they need him, I think, to ultimately pull off this upset in this series. But I don't know what his status is. But, geez, to get that win without him, incredible work here.
Nate McMillan pushing those buttons so perfectly. Solomon Hill, insert, and then he plays well, and everybody playing so well.
I will say though, Lee, Kevin Huerta seemed to have some caca in his pantalones there in the last 2 minutes. That guy was frightened anytime there was a double team. Eyes wide open, just chuck it to somebody else, hold the ball for 5 seconds. Make a quicker decision there, Kevin.
Yeah. He's either the tallest 6'2" guy in the league or the smallest 6'7" guy in the league. He's got deceptive height about him. Like, I think he's listed at 6'7". It just doesn't feel like a 6'7" guy out there. Yeah. But you're right. But prior to that, though, he's not afraid to take the shot. Like, he's confident in his shot. He comes out. He knows his role when he comes off the bench. And defensively as well, he always waits back to try to box out and get that rebound. He's got good defensive presence and defensive awareness. And again, against that Knicks series, he was very good coming off the bench. And I thought overall yesterday he was outstanding too.
Yeah, if the Sixers had come back to win this game, which they almost did, this would have been a sweep, I would have thought. It would have been like, oh, God, geez, how did you lose this? But they didn't. The Hawks, still managed to hold on for the victory, so we should have a series here. We also had a Wedgie in this one, guys. Wedgie number 57. Yeah, let's not forget about that. Nice one here from George Hill, avoiding Collins there and just sticks it ever so gently on the layup. Yeah, just sort of the one coming from underneath there, Tass, as he sticks it there. Yeah,
very unique.
Very, very unique. And we're up to 57. Everybody knows we are just every time we get another Wedgie, it's a new record because we're just adding to this unbelievable total. The pace, it says there's 59, but look, no doubt 60 is in play, which is like, just try and wrap your head around that. My goodness. But another one there from the Sixers, George Hill. Didn't get Hubie Brown saying wedgie. He said wedged, I think, but
I don't even think. Well, I thought I only heard it got stuck from Mark Jones.
Oh, did they even say? Yeah. I thought I remember hearing a wedgie.
ABC game as well. That would have been huge.
I mean, Hubie Brown saying wedgie would have been awesome.
The wedgie culture would have just been great then if you got that. But instead, they just sort of played it off. Didn't say too much. But anyway,
it's okay. Let's get to Saturday night's game 1 between the Nets and the Bucks here. Durant and Kyrie. They carried the Nets there in the opener. They get the victory with Harden going out super, super early. 43 seconds in, I think it was, Trey. But in the end, the Nets managed to pull this one out.
Yeah, you want to hear a dumb take? Here comes one. Losing game 1, trailing by 16 against the Nets without James Harden. The best thing that could have happened to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, wow.
I'll take it back, though. Maybe the second best thing. Winning game 1 would have been the best thing. But look at all the things that went wrong for Milwaukee in game 1 here. They shot 6 of 30 from 3. That's the fewest three-pointers they've made in a game this season. Second worst percentage they shot all year. They're going to shoot better in game 2. Number 2, Blake Griffin went for 18 points, 14 rebounds. His best game of the season. He was dunking. He was talking trash. He was looking like the Nets version of Draymond Green. Let's see him do that another game. You're going to expect 29 points from Kevin Durant. You're going to expect 25 points from Kyrie Irving. That could happen again. You just got to hope that Jrue Holiday and Khris Middleton give you more than 30 points combined. You can look at this game and say, yikes, the Bucks got smashed without James Harden. And yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, but this was a low-key, terrible, one of the worst games of the season for the Bucks. They've got the health advantage going forward. They just got to shoot the ball normally because Giannis ran wild in game 1. So that's probably going to continue for the entirety of the series. There's no way they shoot 20% from 3 the next time here in game 2. So yeah, a bad game 1 for the Bucks, but the good thing is you can throw it completely out. You don't even need to watch that film. Let's just figure out how to win game 2 here.
And for the Bucks, we know that James Harden will not be playing in game 2 tonight. They're going to keep him out with that, what are they saying, hamstring tightness there in his right leg. So no James Harden. Do you agree with what Trey's saying there? Like this was actually a quote unquote good loss for the Bucks because they just played like garbage and we're still sort of in it and they can't play worse.
Yeah,
no?
I do agree with that. I think, the fact that what's also good for the Bucks is it's kind of a level playing field without James Harden out there, and the fact that the Nets are kind of being a little conspicuous with this diagnosis that's not really a diagnosis, them saying hamstring tightness, like way before game time starts, the day before. That's kind of leads me to believe it's going to be a little bit longer. Like it's not a strain. It's not a game time decision. It's not, we'll work him out before the game. So if he's off the floor, then somebody has got to kind of be that third wheel like Blake Griffin was. And it's unlikely you're going to get a great Blake game like that again. Blake was turned into literally Dennis Rodman out there, like going horizontal on the floor, man. He was diving out there, making plays like a defensive center should. But I think even though Giannis had 34, number one, he obviously has to play more. Mike Budenholzer might want to play Giannis in a playoff game more, maybe. I don't know.
It's like he's not even in foul trouble.
No.
He's at 3 fouls. It's like, okay, if he's at 5 fouls, you're like, all right. But
save it.
What is he doing? What is he doing?
The third quarter, he starts and he plays 6 minutes no matter what. Like you look around the league, Doncic playing that entire third quarter. Kawhi doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But not happening with Giannis. I think he could have been even better. There's nobody who's going to stop him inside. Nobody. He was dancing around Blake Griffin when he wanted to. And he had 34 in the end, but Blake cannot stick with him. He never really had the lateral foot speed as a defender, and it ain't happening now, especially having to play heavier minutes because Nick Claxton's staying in that backup role. I think Giannis can dominate, and Brook Lopez can also dominate. If he's got Kevin Durant on him, I mean, he just has to stand under the hoop and get tip-ins, and he did a few times. Mm-hmm. He was showing the size, but they just have to do that more. And if the threes fall a little bit more, but the same. Schumann's pointing out that Kyrie Irving rested only 1 minute in each half, but what came through for the Brooklyn Nets is that they have supporting cast that people all the time just overlook. They just overlook this supporting cast of the Brooklyn Nets. Everybody just talks about Durant and Kyrie Irving, and now these stories coming out. There was a story in the New York Times this weekend asking, what are the Brooklyn Nets? Are they a basketball team even? Just because of the way they were put together. Did you see, number one, Blake. Obviously a monstrous performance as a supporting cast member. And then Mike James coming off the bench and just hitting shot after shot after shot, giving the ball and giving a lot of responsibility. That just shows that this team has been put together and has been coached all season long for these guys to know their roles in game one after a superstar goes down and Bruce Brown comes in for that superstar and him doing a great job of never shooting in the mid-range 3-pointers or dunks. Like they pass the ball so beautifully for a team that you just think, that's a bunch of superstars. Blake Griffin was getting scores off of beautiful passes. Everybody passing the ball so well. Yeah, their big three didn't play a lot together, only 8 games together, but their big twos, whether it's Durant and Irving or Irving and Harden or whoever, they played together, and the rest of the guys played together, and Nash has coached up this team. And yeah, now we have an even series, I think. If James Harden is going to be out for a long time, to me, that makes it interesting.
What do you think, Lee? What do you add to this game one here from the victory from the Nets?
Well, some good and bad. The good is I do think they took a lot of bad shots. Bryn Forbes, who had a great series against the Heat, came out and just threw up a couple of clunkers, which I just thought weren't in rhythm shots. So that goes back to their three-point shooting wasn't very good. I thought Giannis was good, but again, I agree. I think he should be even more dominant because they can't.
Giannis, it's a win for the Nets anytime Giannis has the ball at the top of like the 3-point line and is like slows down and is like looking at everything. That's a win every time for any opposition. Like he needs to be in the post all the time or on the move catching it. And then you're laughing because nobody's going to guard him. You're right. And he's still in a monster game, but every possession where we saw it time again against the Raptors, against the Heat, where he has the ball and he's like, all right, I'm going to crash in there. And everybody's just like waiting for it. It's like, that's bad. Don't do that. Get that out of your repertoire there. Otherwise, I loved what I saw from you, right?
Well, yeah, he took 5 3-pointers, but only 3 free throws, missed all of his three free throws. That, to me, he's got to have double-digit free throws at least. Put the pressure right on that Nets defense. And, okay, 2 for 5, not bad, but you don't need those ones right now, Giannis. Anyway, but the concern really, though, is on Budenholzer in the minutes. And after the game, he said, look, they all want to play 48 minutes, sure, but we've got a deep team. We've got to take advantage of it, keep them ready, keep them fresh, but they want to be out there. Yeah, everyone wants them out there. You've got to put them out there. Don't fall into that trap of like, I want to keep them fresh for a longer series. Win this game like we saw with Ty Lue. Basically, to win the series, do whatever you have to do, and that means just go with your starters and go with your star players heavy minutes. You just have to do that. And I just thought that was a bad mistake by Mike Budenholzer, which hopefully he corrects. But we've seen in the past this has cost his coach teams in the playoffs. So I think the Bucks come away from this one going, gee, that was a pretty bad one. Like it was against the Heat where they survived in that game one where they didn't play that well. Right. But if they can tighten things up in this in game 2 here and go inside a lot more and maybe just hit more than 6 of 33s, I think they're going to be in a better chance to win this game because I didn't think that the Nets really had to play all that well. I thought they played well enough to win the game, but I thought Middleton and Drew Holiday as well took some bad shots, sort of shots that they weren't really forced into from great defense from the Nets. It was more just sort of like settling, a little bit sloppy, a little bit lazy. So lots to clean up here for the Nets, for the Bucks. I think they're in a really good position, but you're going to really have to see that in game 2 to be convinced that they can take this series. They have to go back to Milwaukee with a split, I think.
Yeah, Khris Middleton, 6 of 23 in game 1. I mean, he hit the glass. He got a couple assists. Didn't do much else defensively there in terms of the box score, but he has these 12, 13-point games in playoff series. I brought it up. He was my key to the series. Khris Middleton has to be way better offensively and has to hit some of these threes. I mean, it was Joe Harris hitting basically the equivalent of the entire Bucks team when it came to three-point shooting, right? Joe Harris with 5, and then the Bucks, what'd you say in TK? Was 6, I guess, overall with the 6 of 30. So, yeah, they're going to shoot better, and this should be a good series, but especially without the Harden. It does make it a little more fair, but still Middleton. And Drew, you're right. They have to be, like we said, they got to be jockeying with these other stars on the Nets team. You're not going to maybe outclass a KD and Kyrie, but you got to be a hell of a lot closer than especially what Middleton gave you in game 1. And
those two got outscored by Blake Griffin and Mike James. Yeah. And, if TNT is going to be interviewing Blake Griffin and Mike James immediately after the game, guess what? The opponent lost because if the third and fourth options on your team are the ones that are getting the big podium games, then your team probably looked all right. So yeah, chalk it up. It's over. Bucks be better in game 2. As the stream team is pointing out here, Joel Embiid played more minutes than Giannis Antetokounmpo did. That doesn't make any sense. Just play the guy 40 minutes and the Bucks will get a win.
Mm-hmm.
Does Bud want to get fired? Is he done coaching Milwaukee?
He'll get. Giannis will get his rest if they're up 20 in the fourth quarter. That's when you need to worry about it. But it was just crazy to see in the first game, especially again with James Harden out. It's like, okay, you've got the advantage now. Really, take advantage of that. But instead, 3 free throws for Giannis, simply not good enough. There's not enough pressure on that defense. Nick Claxton, I thought, gave them some decent minutes, but again, he shouldn't be able to stop Giannis, and not that he was, but I mean, if he's out there, Giannis, that paint is open. Go inside every single time.
All right, we got a bunch of coaching news to get to here. I know we're running a little long on a Monday, but first, our final break, I should say, from our sponsors. I'll get us started, guys, because when you think about all the quarantine purchases you've made, I know people have bought in-ground pools, above-ground pools, a bunch of gym equipment. We just bought a decorative chair at my house. Yeah. A decorative
Anyone going to
chair.
sit in it?
I don't think so. It's going to be going in a spot that would be really weird to sit in. So I'm calling it a decorative chair.
Cool.
But then there's one of your biggest purchases of the year, insurance. Americans overspend on car and home insurance by billions every year. That's just a fact check. That's money that could have been spent on more retail therapy, on more decorative chairs. I want decorative chairs around the perimeter of every room in my house by the end of this. Well, that's where Zebra can help you out, at least with the insurance part, not the decorative chairs. The Zebra is the nation's leading insurance comparison site for car and home insurance. In minutes, you can compare policies from every major provider for free, all on one independent marketplace. After a few quick questions, the Zebra pairs people with the right insurance company for them, helping everyone save time and money. Buy online or over the phone with one of their licensed insurance agents. Make insurance your smartest purchase yet. Visit thezebra.com/nodunks to get your free quote today. That's thezebra.com/nodunks.
Yesterday morning, I was watching my children hoover some cereal. One was eating some Cookie Bears, biting their heads off, having some fun, and one was eating Loot Foops. Not sure if I can say the actual name of the cereal, so let's call it Loot Foops, not Fupas. Loot Foops. And I remember watching them. I was like, they're having so much fun. I remembered I got Magic Spoon cereal in the cupboard. It smells and tastes exactly like Loot Foops, but without the protein. I'm trying to work out so much more. So the added protein is great. So I just jumped in on that. Showing these kids how it's done. Magic Spoon is fun to say as well with my kids. Magic Spoon. That's the cereal Daddy's having. It's so much fun. And it's healthy. 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein a serving. Ready to get all toit for the summer. Packing on that and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. 140 calories a serving. Still boggles my mind when I say that out loud. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. You can build your own box. Available flavors to build your own box are cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, and cinnamon. And I'm not joking about fruity smelling exactly like Loot Foops. I think that's done on purpose, Magic Spoon. I'm pretty sure. Go to magicspoon.com/nodunks to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use promo code NODUNKS at checkout to save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/nodunks and use the code NODUNKS to save $5. And we thank Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode.
This episode of No Dunks is brought to you by Bourbon Time. What? What the hell is Bourbon Time, you may ask? Well, our friends at Jim Beam realized the loss of the commute between the office and home has affected how we wind down at the end of the day. It's true. I'm at work right now. My bed is 10 feet away from here, which is great, actually. But when I'm in bed, work is 10 feet away from me. So there's, no in-between time, no me time. It's a recipe for burnout. But Jim Beam wants to help us beat the burnout and reclaim the hour of 6 to 7 p.m. as our own. or whatever, an hour for yourself. Bourbon time, if you will. We'll be celebrating bourbon time on this week's happy hour on June 10th. So pour yourself a glass of smooth Jim Beam and come hang. It'll be super casual as usual. But hey, Lee, I got an assignment for you.
Oh, okay.
I want you to come up with a No Dunks signature cocktail using Jim Beam for happy hour. Now, the last time you made a drink on the show, it literally took you 45 minutes to mull, what is it? Muddle. But you muddled some mint. You were muddling mint for literally 45 minutes for a mojito. Can you make a mojito with bourbon? Could you do that?
We'll find out on Thursday night.
So
I've got plenty of mint growing in the garden, so I can concoct here and have something ready for you.
All right, cool. So you're gonna do that on happy hour this Thursday, June 10th. Remember, everyone needs to take some time for themselves. Join us in reclaiming 6 to 7 p.m. wherever you are in the world as the happiest hour, so you can do whatever it is that makes you happy. And if that includes a glass of bourbon, remember to drink Jim Beam responsibly. Jim Beam Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2021. Gotta add that. James B. Beam Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. End of ad.
All right. So happy hour is back. That's the big news in that read on Thursday night with a little Jim Beam concoction from Lily.
Wow.
The happiest hours. Can't wait.
Yeah. Pretty big news that Jim is a James.
I know.
James Beam.
Yeah.
James Beam.
Very formal. I might have to get the top hat out for this one. I will be consuming and indulging in some of James Beam's finest bourbon.
Let's not forget that it was during a happy hour when a bunch of Jim Beam just arrived. Or is that during a beach stepping? No, I can't remember. That was beach stepping.
It was beach stepping.
Yeah.
Oh,
when suddenly a bunch of
beach.
bottles had arrived at Lee's house and he had to go get them because he saw a guy on his Ring doorbell and he had to leave the show we were recording right then and now. Anyway, do you still have the Jim Beam, Lee?
I have some of it, yes. Yeah, some of it. I had to sample some of it. Yeah, I used to be a big Jim Beam head back in the day. So like stepping back in time, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. 9 o'clock our time will be 11 a.m. East Coast Australia time. My mate Louis, big bourbon Jim Beam head. He'll probably join us for a sip or two. There's any excuse for him. So 11 a.m. on a Friday. Oh, middle of the day for work, but he won't mind. He'll slip one in. He'll be fine.
All right.
Bourbon time is any time.
Yeah. Happy hour this Thursday night. We'll be back hanging out here on the live stream, just kicking it while we drink our Jim Beam. And I assume there'll be a game or two on. So I'm sure we'll have our eye on those playoff games as well. All right. Let's start wrapping this up, but we got to get to this coaching news quick here, and we'll try and make it as quick as possible. After another first-round playoff exit in 5 seasons, the Blazers and coach Terry Stotts mutually agreed to part ways on Friday. Stotts leaves Portland as the second winningest coach in franchise history, including 8 consecutive playoff appearances, which is the longest streak in the league. Lily, how shocked were you by this Terry Stotts news where he is moving on?
Not at all. I think we all probably thought this was happening. He's been there, as you say, 9 seasons, and the Blazers have the longest active playoff streak at 8 seasons. Only 1 conference finals appearance to show for that. But they were never really a title contender in that time, I don't think. And I think that shows that the roster was never that great. They have 1 superstar, they have MVP caliber talent, they have an all-star caliber talent. But other than that, they've had a lot of sort of interchangeable role players who I think Terry Stotts has gotten a lot out of those guys. And he's a good, consistent coach, but they simply were never quite as good as those elite teams. They were sort of better than a lot of teams in the league, but never really a challenge there. I mean, they also went against the Warriors, who had that 5-year run of just incredible dominance where, the Warriors seemed to be the best team in the league for a while. But I think Terry Stotts leaves. It was kind of like, listen, we've gone as far as we can together. There's some big changes in store there for Portland, or that maybe they even consider something with Damian Lillard. But I certainly think that either he or CJ is gone after this season too. But I think Terry Stotts did a fine, an okay job. But considering the roster he had, he couldn't really get them much closer to that. So I think he'll get another job somewhere. I think his record will say, listen, we know what this guy can do. He can get teams to play well enough. it ultimately always comes down to your roster, and the Blazers never really had a talent roster that was good enough to really get them to the finals.
Yeah, Stotts has been the only coach Lillard has ever played for in the NBA, which is pretty mind-boggling when you think about it. It's been around for a long time, but he's out. And then Tass, it was weird. Lillard immediately following this news on Friday basically comes out and says, I want Jason Kidd to be the next coach. Everyone's like, oh, okay. It's an Oakland point guard, Hall of Famer. I guess that makes some sense, but wow. Going on record with that, are you, Lillard? And then it turns around where Jason Kidd says, actually, I'm going to pull my name from consideration. This doesn't feel right. Probably not the right way to go about hiring a coach. And that he is, again, he's removing his name from consideration. So there's a bunch of other names being floated around, but that's sort of weird. I would just say, like, not the firing of Stotts or the mutually agreeing to part ways, but like the quick turnaround of Lillard saying Kidd and then him saying, I don't want this. And then now we figure out where they go from here. That was weird, right?
Yeah, the mic was in Lillard's face, and I guess he kind of said a couple names that he liked. He said Jason Kidd, then he added Chauncey Billups as well. I don't think Damian Lillard was getting on his stump and just screaming out, "This is the guy I want," but he was saying guys that he likes, and J Kidd probably caught him off guard, I guess. That to me was the more surprising part, that J Kidd didn't jump at a job that, with one of the best point guards in the game, one of the best players in the game, leading the way. Seemed a little surprising to me, but J Kidd not interested. Maybe Chauncey Billups is interested. A guy that they should definitely want is a defensive-minded coach. That's the key here. Terry Stotts took a step back defensively. Damian Lillard's going to buoy that offense. That offense can be great. But, Terry Stotts, all of his years, he had several good defensive years, but the way it dropped back to 29th, they're not going to beat anybody. And so somebody who can really fire up that defense, and there's got to be some personnel changes. I still think that the back line of Nurkic is probably going to be different next year. So who's that defensive guy? I don't know. Maybe ask Dame. He knows more guys than I do, but somebody's got to be able to fire up that bunch. I'm trying to stall here, trying to think of somebody because.
What about Jeff Van Gundy? His name's always comes up for these things.
Classic.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Kenny
thing that
Smith.
happens with. Yeah, no, I haven't seen Kenny Smith attached to this one, surprisingly. But Mike D'Antoni's name obviously thrown around now. There's maybe not a defensive-minded guy by any means, but his name's being attached to this. Chauncey Billups, like you said, I guess Juwan Howard there, now coaching at Michigan. Right. Then there's a bunch of course, assistant coaches like David Vanterpool is always a possibility, I think. But Trae, what do you think? Who could be coaching the Blazers? Who would you like to see coaching the Blazers? And what was your takeaway from Stotts moving on?
My take is that this is the first of many moves, because I'm with y'all. Terry Stotts wasn't the solution, but also is not the problem, I don't think, for the Blazers. They've ran the same team out there for basically 5 seasons, and you're seeing the same team. They're great on offense. They're bad on defense. Is that on Terry Stotts, or is that on trying to build a defense around Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and half a season of Yusuf Nurkic? A new voice, it's going to help, but honestly, how do you improve this team? They traded 2 picks for Robert Covington, a solid defender, but not a guy that made any sort of an impact on them defensively for the rankings for the entire season. Their other big signing last year, Derrick Jones Jr., can't even play in the playoffs. At this point, CJ McCollum's not bringing back a lot. Yusuf Nurkic not bringing back a lot. They're towards the end of their careers. You missed the peak for when you could trade those guys. Listening to Zach Lowe's podcast, you get the feeling that Portland almost has to explore a Damian Lillard trade. That's, of course, completely complicated by the fact that he's the guy who in the league is the most like, I'm never leaving my team. I'm never having a super team. So I don't know what the Blazers are going to do here. They had to make a move. But to me, Terry Stotts is kind of like number 3 on the list of the moves they should make. Number 1 is the GM. They got to find somebody who brings in better players. Number 2, they got to get better players, and then you can worry about the coach.
In other coaching news, Steve Clifford not returning to coach the Magic. They've mutually agreed to part ways. Nobody's getting fired, by the way. Everybody's just mutually agreeing to go their separate ways here. But during his 3 seasons in Orlando, Clifford led the Magic to a 96-131 record, but 2 playoff appearances. And so in the end, it sounds like the timelines of the Magic's rebuild, which they're really leaning into, and then Clifford's, station within the league and with that team, they just no longer align. That was like Woj was saying, that's the real reason they're parting ways here. Maybe Terry Stotts immediately goes to Orlando if he wants a job there, Lee. It could be a possibility. But we now have the Blazers looking for a coach. We have the Celtics, of course, looking for a coach. and the Magic in the mix. Potentially still the Pacers. I don't know what's going on with Nate Bjorkgren if he's going to hold on to his job. And I don't think the Wizards have officially come out and said, no, Scotty Brooks is our guy. We're still running with him. So there could be another one there. Could be looking at anywhere between 3 to 5 jobs that could be available. But yeah, Clifford moving on. I guess this is not much of a shock to anyone probably here on this Zoom meeting here today, because yeah, they're just like, we need almost like a Lloyd Pierce, I guess, or something like that. A young, probably, I'm guessing, an assistant coach on some roster somewhere to come in here and get maybe his first crack at the rebuilding tasks of like the Orlando Magic with some of their young talent over there.
Yeah, and I think Steve Clifford would be a great, now talking about it, would be a great candidate for the Portland job. He made those Orlando Magic teams work their butts off on the defensive end. And yeah, Terry Stotts in Orlando, maybe they could trade spots. Clifford and Terry right there, done and done. Yeah, I think Steve Clifford is a really, really good coach. He's a really good X's and O's coach that, yeah, would probably benefit from better players rather than a rebuild. But he would do a great job, yeah, just kind of, working around the edges with great players rather than having to go of it again, starting from the bottom up. I guess he didn't want to do that, but I would think of Steve Clifford watching him on the sideline to never, ever want to mutually part ways from anything. He just seems like such a hard worker. But maybe the Magic are, I guess giving him his wish if he wants to move on, if there is a job out there for him, because he is a really, really good coach. And there are, after, you mentioning David Vanderpool, there's a bunch of good coaches out there that should, get a crack at something like the Orlando Magic, like trying to build it from the bottom up.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope it's like at least a refreshing new name in Orlando. And you're right. Clifford will be on another team somewhere. Maybe he'll take an assistant job. Maybe takes a year off. Same for Stotts. Like, who knows? I'm sure these guys are burned out a little bit at this point. They will be likely another coach in this. They'll be coaching another team in this league because everybody gets a second, third, fourth crack. But it is nice always, Trae, to see a new guy given a chance. And I think Orlando would be a perfect spot for a new coach to try, right?
Absolutely. They're going to be looking at a Steven Silas-like kind of candidate, I would imagine, because they are going to be brutal for the next couple of seasons. As Josh Robbins at The Athletic reported, Steve Clifford was not prepared to sign an extension after the injury-riddled Magic abruptly shifted course in late March, veering from win-now mode to a full rebuild. Win-now mode for the Orlando Magic right now is 42 wins. They are going to be way worse than that. They got to have some lottery luck coming up here in the draft lottery. They need to hit a number 1 or a number 2 pick. They got to get a Chris Webber. They got to get a Shaq. They got to get a Dwight. If they end up getting a Victor Oladipo or an Aaron Gordon in this draft, it's just going to be more of the same for the Magic.
Yeah, anything to add to this, Lily? Orlando and Clifford parting ways?
Nah, they blew up the team really at the trade deadline and going with the coach. So it's a full rebuild, full restart there for them. But it comes down to talent. I think Steve Clifford in 2 of his 3 seasons made the playoffs, won 2 games in total. But he just didn't really have a huge roster with a lot of superstar talent. I think Vucevic was the only all-star, really. Markelle Fultz, of course, this season was playing okay, but he got injured. So, there's just not much talent there. They need, as Trae's saying, they need to kind of get lucky and get a decent, franchise-altering player in there to spark things again, because they haven't been very good since basically they traded Dwight. That's not really good for the franchise. They need to be better. So, Clifford did the sort of a good job with what he had, but ultimately, it's time for him to move on and start afresh. And I wonder if Sam Cassell, who's been an assistant forever, will get a look in there, because he always seems to be on the sidelines. And I think it's time for someone like him. You can only be an assistant for so long until you're like, all right, take on the reins yourself and see how you go.
Udoka is another name that maybe will get his first chance. So we'll see. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this later in the coming weeks here as we finally figure out who's going to be coaching some of these teams. And like I said, maybe there'll be another opening or 2 in Indiana or maybe Washington. Who knows? Okay, let's wrap this up with a little tweet of the night.
Tweet of the night. Wow.
Twitter.
Yeah, very exciting news. We're going to Friday night. Our own Twitter account for Tweet of the Night. I believe it was Trey Kirby manning this one, because the Top Shot Hot Boys had an exclusive on Friday night, guys. The first Wedgie moment ever coming to NBA Top Shot. That's right. You're seeing it here on the stream team. Anthony Simons sticks number 48 with that sick chase down block. Hashtag NBA Top Shot this. And this was, again, we tweeted this on Friday night, dropping in packs next week. Well, we're already to next week. This moment will be available starting today in a pack there on Top Shot, and then throughout the week in their rebound packs there. So crazy news, guys. It is the year of the wedgie. I mean, a record-breaking year, and now there's a Top Shot moment. Tass, what do you think? Is this going to get you into Top Shot finally?
Yeah, for sure. As long as I get a serial number.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise I'd be peeved. How many of these are going to be released? How many moms are we talking here?
At least 40,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So quite a bit.
So 10,000 for each of us.
Yeah, we're going to try and get them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just got to sign up for an account and get in the queue every time there's a drop.
Yes, basically.
And then hey, put up our little paddle and say, hey, I want a moan. I want the wedgie moan. But you never know. You get a pack. You just never know
it may not be in there.
But throughout the week, the wedgies will be in those packs.
Well, yeah, they're going to hit the market very soon here. You can go buy this moment once it hits the marketplace
probably,
too. Yeah, later tonight. This is going to be available today. People are going to start pulling this moment. They're going to be like, whoa, I got a wedgie moment. Some people are going to be like, I don't want that. And they're going to put it on the marketplace. But those people would be dumb. You should hold on to these. This is a super hold here with these wedgie moments.
Super hold, just like that ball getting stuck in the rim. It's stuck there deep. You're going to want to hang on to this forever. This, I don't know that I would have picked this as the first wedgie moment, but it might be the perfect choice because it's the Blazers. They're tied with a couple other teams for the most wedgies this season. It's Anthony Simons, one of the, I think there's 6 guys who have 2 wedgies this season. He's one of them. Wow. Lamar Hurd was on the call. Obviously, Top Shot doesn't have the audio from it, but he gave us a huge shout out to the No Dunks crew. He's like, there's got to be some extra special stuff with this one. He was right, man. They turned it into a moment. And my guess is that it's actually going to say wedgie on the description. So we shall see.
Wow. Can't wait for that. Yeah, in the little write-up there. Hopefully wedgie.
Yeah,
we think so, Tass.
Fired up.
We think so. Yeah, very excited. Yeah, Lee, you got your wedgie shirt on. Nice to see.
I saw that tweet in the doc and I thought, do I go with my Top Shot Hot Boys shirt or do I go with the wedgie? Because it's you can't wear them both. And I thought I'd go with this beautiful baby blue wedgie because it is a beauty. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a nice shirt.
Yeah, I love this one.
You unfortunately can't buy that right now because that was a limited edition. Well, you did, though. We sold a lot of those bad boys. That's a
Top shirt, Hot Boys, maybe. That's what we made.
Right.
Limited edition.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we get royalties on this, as Sep B is saying in the stream team, but
no,
we don't own wedgies. No, of course not. So how much do you think this is going to go for in the marketplace?
Well, that's the question, Tass.
Yeah. Any ideas? I mean, I'm not really
I don't know.
No.
It's not going to be a high-priced one. Anthony Simons is not a superstar in the league, but I mean, obviously people know we're going to be going for it. So maybe that helps a little extra utility, as they say, but I don't know. When you hear about Top Shot, you're like, wow, people are spending $200,000 on a LeBron James highlight. No, we're spending $200,000 on 40,000 Anthony Simons blocks. Super smart stuff.
I was thinking about this, Trae. You know, low serials are important. Sometimes you want number 1. If you can get that, that's incredible. A lot of people they love to get the jersey number of the player. Like that's a big one. That one goes for more money on the marketplace. I would think, being the first ever wedgie moment, that whatever number we end up with this year, total wedgies, that would be a serial number worth having. So if we end up with 59 wedgies, then that 59 serial number would be huge for this Simons moment.
Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah, okay.
That's 48 as well. The jersey number basically of the wedgie.
Sure.
Yeah.
48 club. Join the 48 club now. Get you a moment that has a 48 in it, and we'll give you access to something exclusive. Like Lee will give you a hug sometime. He'll be wearing that wedgie shirt as well.
Yeah,
sure. Why not?
So
good luck to all the Top Shot Hot Boys and girls.
We don't know when this is dropping because
dropping today.
Today.
2 p.m. Pacific, so 5 p.m. Eastern is.
I got time. I got time to sign up for it.
There you go, Tass.
Yeah, why not? This will be my decorative chair. But unlike a decorative chair, I'm going to spend some money on this, and I'm going to sit on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck
This
to all
is
the
gonna
Top
go
Shot
on.
hot boys and girls out there. If you're in the, hopefully you get a pack and hopefully you get that Simons moment. And you got to hold that, everybody. That one's going to be worth many millions of dollars in the future. All right, tonight's games, we got game 2 Bucks Nets. Again, Harden ruled out. And then we got game 1 of the Nuggets Suns. So that's very exciting. We won't go into them. We're not going to make predictions. Let's just wait and talk about them on tomorrow's show, 10 a.m. Eastern, live here on YouTube. Try and get it up as quick as possible in podcast form, wherever you download and listen to the No Dunks podcast. I know we had some troubles there on Friday. Apple Podcast did this whole new update. I think it's been causing a lot of podcasters out there some headaches in terms of getting the show up and it going. It's been a little weird, but we're trying our best. JD was working all Friday afternoon. You had to do it 3 or 4 times, did you not, JD, to try and get that damn thing up? I don't even know if it ever made it up there in the end to some people. But
I don't know either, and it was a nightmare. And hopefully, it's all solved for today. But we'll see. We're about to find out.
Yes, fingers crossed. But thank you, everybody, for downloading the show and listening to the show, and to all the stream teamers joining us live here. Back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, the coaching staff that would run out the best 5 playing coaches, it's got to be the Nets. Thinking about it, Steve Nash, point guard, Jacques Vaughn, shooting guard, Ime Udoka at small forward, thinking of Emeka Okafor, Ime Udoka at small forward, Amare, power forward, and Tiago Splitter at the center spot.
Oh, yeah.
Baller style.
Jesus. Give him the championship. Brace the day, people.
You could stay